Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Justin, aka No Good Comics, and you are watching another episode of Comic Collector Origins. That's right. It's the show where I interview guests from the community, and we talk about their origin story, how they first got started, what their interests have been getting into this hobby, and where they've been along the way, and kind of, talk about a little bit of their goals and what they want to do next with this hobby. So this has been incredible. It's episode 45 now, so my 45th Comic Collector Origins show. It's just been awesome. Appreciate everybody who's given me support, who's been there, all the guests that I've had, and the guests that I have planned out coming up in the future. I'm looking forward to. It's just been really, really cool. So I want to shout out everybody. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe to the channel. I really do appreciate that. Smash that thumbs up as well. And let's see, we got a couple people hanging already in the chat. So really, really excited to have my guest on today, because it's somebody who I think is very involved and very supportive in this comic book hobby, this comic book community that we always talk about. And if you don't follow this man, I highly recommend that you do on both Instagram and YouTube, amongst other various channels that he may be on. But without further ado, let me bring in my man, Greg, aka Beardedcomicbro, to the show. Greg, what's going on, brother?
Dude, Justin, thank you so much for having me.
Hell yeah, man.
Man, if you guys hear screaming children, they're all safe. It's just them being hooligans upstairs.
All those hooligans. Well, dude, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show. I know it's been a while coming. We planned this out a while ago, and obviously we've talked for a long time, but finally getting you on the channel, I'm pumped.
So much more prepared than I am. You're like, hey, I gotta have you on the show. I'm like, awesome, cool. Like, and they're like, hey, how's 2 months out for you? I'm like, I think I should be okay.
Right. You're like, I'll let you know in 2 months.
Just hit me up a week before and I should be so okay.
Yeah. It's, dude, man. And it's funny. I was talking to some other people earlier today about, just the idea of, when you run shows, and I know you do your own, especially when you're having guests and wanting to coordinate that stuff. I'm realizing it's helpful, more and more helpful to kind of aim out a little further if you can. Yeah. Just because, especially with the summer coming up, people have plans, people have vacations. It's hard to assume that, someone might just be free any given weekend or week day. Right. So, but I do appreciate you scheduling this out with me here. And, I'm pumped because I know we haven't, this is not our first time, hanging out together. I know that you were there to laugh at my drawings on your show with Rod, all in fun and good times. But yeah, so I'm glad that we're able to kind of,
absolutely, for sure.
Yeah, man. One other thing, by the way, I asked you before we got on where you're from, and shame on me because I should absolutely know where you're from because of the fact that you call me out anytime I bring up my Baltimore Ravens, as you are a Cincinnati Bengals fan. So that just reminds, as the countdowns go, I'm like, I knew that. I already knew that.
Yeah, I gotta keep you Ravens fans in check. Whereas I like, since I'm a Bengals fan, tell them the real Browns are
the real Browns. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah, man. So we'll definitely talk some sports. I know you're a sports guy yourself, so I'm excited for that. And so we'll get into that. Let's say a quick hello to the chat.
Yeah.
Let's see, we had my man Something Wong hanging out with us. What's going on, brother? Good to see you. Thanks for stopping in. We got Travis Station. Hello,
What's
TM
up,
Nerdy. Thanks for stopping in. We got some sarcasm here. It looks like from John's Comics with Kids, or maybe not. He says, okay, Charlie and I are here for her favorite YouTube. He says, I'm here to see which pizza Justin is
doing. So Charlie is one of my biggest fans, and that's the only reason I watch John's channel is because Charlie's a part of it. She is the face of John's Comics with Kids, and Kate, I like her too. Yeah. But Charlie always watches one of our shows on my channel and always comments, and we keep John around so she has internet access so she can watch our shows. But
it's good. It's good. Yeah, you got to do what you got to do. Appreciate you, John. Thanks for stopping in. Let's see. We got Entropy in Comics. What's going on, brother? Good to see you. We got Jason Claiming Comics in the house as well. Always a pleasure, Jason. Let's see. We get everybody. We got Fuzzy hanging out with us all the way from Scotland. Good to see you, Fuzzy Dunlop, and Unruly Simeon in the house. What's going on, brother? VP, what is up? Real Rude 6 also hanging out with us. What's going on, man? Thanks for hanging out with us today. See, I'm getting through. I think we got everybody. We got Nick, Comic Culture in the house with us, and also Hialeah Comic Bro, who I realized Hialeah was actually the second guest of mine ever for this show.
What?
So shout out to Raul. Good to see you, brother. As always, I was just talking with him about some fantasy football, and maybe we got to cue you in on some of that down the road as the season comes up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're trying to put together a little comic community, fantasy team sport thing. So maybe we'll touch base on that in a little bit. Paul Morris, PJ, what's up, man? Good to see you. Thanks for stopping in. All right, I think we're caught up at the moment. Chat, if you're watching or if you're catching the replay, feel free to leave comments or chime in the chat. We'll get to it as soon as possible. Bearded, if you see anything in the comments that you want to address at any given time, feel free to dive in. You will have to monitor what John says, so keep an eye out for
it. Someone's got to.
He's always trying to bring you down, man. I noticed that.
Can't though. You can't.
So let's and I should say first and foremost, if you guys are not following Bearded Comic Bro, make sure you do that because I have his information in the description below. But I put your YouTube and your Instagram channel. I don't know if are you on any other platforms?
I'm on Twitter, but I mean, if it's one of those, if you're following me on Instagram, it's the same thing on Twitter. So
find you everywhere.
Yeah. Try and do what you gotta do. So
I just started trying to get back into my Twitter account, like starting to use it a little more. And
I like Twitter because I do a lot of comic creator interviews on my channel, and Twitter world is where they hang out a lot more, and they're a lot more active than they are on Instagram.
I noticed that.
And so, like for me, I feel like I can interact with the creators a lot easier on Twitter, and so I'm trying to keep all my platforms at the same level. And kind of even keel, but that's one of those main ones because I feel like I don't think our community does Twitter a lot, like very much, but the creators do, and I want to build those relationships too. So
absolutely, no, it's a great point for any type of celebrity or anyone that you're trying to get in touch with. I've noticed that it's a lot more of a busier platform over there for them. I try to like coordinate some of my posts and kind of reshare them over there, but I also don't want to be robotic. I want to kind of be into it at the same. It's tough. Right. It's hard to be everywhere, man.
It is.
It's not easy. We got DJ Links in the house. What's going on, DJ Links?
What's up, DJ?
All right, so let's dive into this. My first question for you to just kind of kick things off is we want to hear about your origin story. So when did this hobby kick off for you? How old were you? What was your environment like? And maybe who influenced you to get into it?
Yeah. So it's kind of a hodgepodge of where I went from how I got into collecting to where I'm at now.
Sure.
My mom always says my first word ever was Batman. I don't know if I believe her, but that's what she says. So from day one, I was into Batman, and anything to do with Batman, I was there for it. I remember going over to my grandparents' house, watching the 1966 Batman show with Adam West, Burt Ward, and just getting exposed. Like that was my first influence of Batman. So everyone's like, it's campy. I don't like it. I'm like, no, this is Adam West Batman was Batman for me for the longest time.
Yeah.
But I didn't get to watch it very often because it was on cable or like it was because there were the reruns on TV Land and stuff like that or something. And so my grandparents would record them on VHS for me and send me VHS tapes because they lived in South Carolina.
There you go.
And so I still have those VHSs and like I have all the, on DVD and stuff, but they mean a lot to me. So through that, then, finding about Batman, the animated series, watching that show and just getting that exposure of, I started reading comic strips in the newspapers and that's where, Phantom and things like that. And what really started was we have half-price bookstores here in the Midwest.
Okay.
And right next to one of the half-price bookstores was a movie theater. My mom would always want to go to movies. She's a big movie buff and loved them all. Mm-hmm. And her kind of way to rope me in was like, hey, I'll take you to this bookstore and let you get a comic book of like Batman and stuff that you like if you go watch this movie. And I mean, it would have been anything from like watching Little Women, watching, R-rated movie, and she's like hiding my eyes half the time saying, we don't say this and things like that. Right. But it was her way of bribing, like, hey, I'll feed you popcorn and then I'll let you go pick out a comic book. And that kind of opened up my world to, I really didn't step foot into a comic book store as a kid because I didn't really know they existed. My comic book store was Half Price Bookstore. So I was always backtracking and trying to read those. And, so it was always part of the hobby for me. And I kind of got away from it when I was in high school and college. Mm-hmm. I think that's a common trend you hear a lot of just other things were happening.
Totally.
And I remember popping into a comic book store one time in like college. And I went to ask the guy, I was like, hey, I remember reading a comic when I was a kid. Like, it was like Batman and Captain America. And like, it was all the DC versus Marvel characters that were fighting. And the guy looked at me deadpan and was like, that would never happen in a comic book. Like, you're misremembering something.
Right.
And I was so, because I knew I found out I was right. I was talking to amalgam stuff, but I was so got burnt right there that I was just like, man, I'm like, dude, like comic book store owners are jerks. Like, and
Right.
I was just like, I'm done. It kind of killed
yeah.
it for me.
Sure.
And then I picked it back up when the shop opened up about 3 years ago. And I told my wife, I'm like, I'm going to get a short box. I'm now looking at 18 long boxes.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, man. I'm right about there with you from within 3 years. That happens. They multiply like bunny rabbits, man.
They do. She comes down now into my basement and she's like, you remember when you were like, I'm only gonna have a short box? I was like, yeah. That.
Right. Damn, man.
I have a basement.
You're right. Exactly. So then 3 years ago is where you kind of really dove into it to where you are now. Is that, I mean, you've really gone head first, I feel like.
I did. So I got back into collecting. I think it had been 3 years ago. I feel like 2018. I don't know. Mm-hmm. COVID makes me forget what years are and stuff.
Yeah, I hear you.
But I feel like 3 or 4 years ago, I started collecting. I tell you, it was when Batman, it was issue 55 of Batman Volume 3 was out. So it was a couple months after the wedding.
Okay.
Yep. I went into the store. Owner was like, hey, what are you interested in and stuff? I was like, man, Batman, give me anything Batman. He's like, here's the new Batman title. He's like, they just had a big event. Like, you probably hop on here if you catch some of the back issues. Like, yep. Read it. I love that issue. And I was like, I want more. And it just, I started looking at comic shops all over the city. We have like 8 within a 30-minute drive of my house.
It's a good spot then. Yeah.
It's a good spot. But I'm like, I would be going like every other day to a different one just to be like, all right, I got to get these Batman issues.
right. Trying to catch up. And
man, it spiraled out of control.
Yep. And it's still spiraling.
It is. I'm in a downward.
Right. There's no coming back.
There's no hope.
Oh my God. That is awesome, man. And I like that you kind of broke this up, and I want to get into each of these little kind of segments of, portions of how you got into this hobby.
Yeah.
I want to say a quick hello here. We got Alan hanging out with us. Climbing Comics, good to see you, Alan. The chat just jumped on me a tiny bit. Chaos in Comics, what is going on? He said Bearded's origin story is exactly the same as the beginning of Cherry Blackbird.
I didn't read it, but I know it's coming from Chaos. It ain't gonna be good.
Mark Spector in the house. What's going on, Mark? Good to see you, my friend. Let's see. Sorry if I skipped anyone. Scrolling through, thought I saw a couple other voice injection in the house. Good to see you. Hanging out from Toronto. We got Flash by Night with us as well. What's going on, Flash? We got my man Morbius in the house. Was just talking with him earlier. Let's see. I think I'm. Yep. Oh, Ian, there he is. Ian, Hood Rat Comics from Team Nerd Herd, hanging out with us as well. Appreciate you, my friend. So let's rewind for a second.
Yeah,
so I like that you talked about. Especially with the VHS tapes, the recordings of all these Batman shows and stuff. I love hearing that because it just goes to show you that you don't need to just be some, diehard comic fan from the get-go. And in fact, most people get pulled in by other platforms like movies or the cartoons or, just other areas of, obviously this hobby can reach out to so many more things, video games, so I love hearing that kind of stuff. And then, you mentioned you haven't really gone to any LCSs as you were younger. And then, of course, high school comes around. You are, life happens and want to hang out with friends and, all that stuff. So I totally get that. And you're not alone there. But that's a gap. I mean, so you go into college and
there was probably a solid 10-year gap where I didn't read comics. Now I would pick up a graphic novel here, like I had something older, Walking Dead trades. I would start to read some of those. Or I go to Barnes and Nobles and pick up a, Batman, whatever, trade. But I still was I was still into superheroes and comic related things. I just wasn't reading comics. I was watching the shows. I was watching all the movies. And so it's kind of how I like that 10-year gap from comics, whereas like my pop culture mind got expanded and I knew a lot of random dumb stuff with that. But like now I'm playing catch up on all my comic book knowledge I missed from like 2003 to 2018.
Sure. And that is a lot of content. Yeah. I'm right there with you, man. I'm still trying to catch, and I'm trying to read, the old stuff and show an appreciation for everything. It's tough. Yeah. So, and then like you said, so 2018, that's when I got into it. And I just got into comics. Like I was not reading comics before that at all. Like I never really, my only history is the fact that my dad is an artist and used to draw for Marvel and DC. That's, other than that, I never, picked up a book really, other than the 1 or 2 times I attempted to read his. And that was like it, So it's interesting. I feel like we all, and I bring this up because I feel like everyone I've interviewed, or a lot of people that I've interviewed, have kind of said the same thing, where they got back into it either around that time, like 2017, 2018, 2019. And then of course you have those that, re-jump back in that were from the pandemic in 2020. But like, 2018, 2019 was like kind of the sweet spot. I don't think I was, I remember picking up some Batman. I do remember hearing about the wedding stuff at that time. But I wanted to highlight that. I thought it was interesting that it's Tom King's Batman that kind of got you into back into comics, and because I know that that's very, you're on one side or the other with a lot of people and how they think of Batman and Tom King.
I mean, Tom King always will have a special place in my collecting heart because of
what
his volume. Like,
he got you into
I got to go back with lower expectations to like the wedding stuff. So like I already knew people were upset with how things happened. So I didn't get caught up into that hype. I just really appreciated his different takes on how he created Batman. And as a Batman fan, I liked it. And I know there are diehard Batman fans who hate it too. So it's such a, you're right. You're either like, I'm on it or I'm against it. But like, man, my hot take has always been, I enjoyed Tom King's overall run better than Scott Snyder's overall run in Batman. And
I mean,
there's a few of us.
but that's what I love about comics, and that's why you can't just necessarily dismiss a certain series or a certain artist to say that they shouldn't be writing that or that they shouldn't be doing this, because you don't know who that person is influencing to get into comics. Right. And if Tom King didn't do that, maybe you didn't come across Batman. Maybe you never got into comic books. It's interesting to kind of think about that. And I really enjoyed. I only read the first 5 or 6 trades. It was all the stuff before the issue 50, but I read like 1 through 35 or whatever it is, and I liked it. I mean, I love the artwork. And overall, I really liked it. And I'm, newer to Batman, like reading that too, I think is what helped me get into it, because I didn't know anything else to compare it to. Right. Other than, the movies and whatever. So I thought it was good enough, I guess for my entertainment. Right. So it's interesting. So I just wanted to highlight that, because there are some people that feel very strongly opposite of how you kind of describe things, but I love that it can also get people into the hobby. And that's just a good reminder to everybody, I think, no matter who the writer is. It's a good reminder that comics are so unique that like you might not, what doesn't resonate with you might resonate and hit differently with someone else, and that's perfectly okay. Totally. And so I really do. That's one of the reasons I try to not bash comics too much. I'm just like, it's not for me. Like, and that's okay. Totally. There's a lot that isn't for me, and there's a lot of stuff that I read that isn't for other people, and that's what makes it great. I am with you 100%. And I think that's the best way to put it is saying that something may or may not be for you, as opposed to necessarily just saying that it's garbage or whatever, description you might want to say. Because it's art, and art is subjective, right? Like, there's no wrong answer. You can say, well, I don't, but somebody believes in it, and someone took the time to put that out, because quite frankly, not a lot of people are making too much money on comics books for a living. So they're, not just doing it to do it for the most part. I'm sure like anything you do, so they had to believe in vision and stuff. And so I try to always look at it like that, of like, man, it's just not for me. Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's fair. A couple things I wanted to highlight here. Fuzzy said he's never come across Bearded before, but he just subbed you up on YouTube. I saw that Instagram. When we were talking. I was like, ooh, got a new sub. Thank you, Fuzzy. Appreciate that. I also saw, what was the other thing? Nick was saying I got into back into comics in 2016, right when the New 52 ended and Rebirth started. A lot of us are just 5 years in. Yeah, no,
Yep.
it's 100%.
I heard that a lot. A lot of people were like, "Hey, when they relaunched New 52 or they relaunched Rebirth, people are like, this is when I'm." And as much as sometimes we hate it, like, oh, they're relaunching another title. That's why they do it. I mean,
to get the new readers,
to get the new readers, or to get the readers who read it as kids that were like, "Hey, oh, they're starting a new Batman series. I can't now." So I get it. Now they just need time cut down on some of the titles.
Right. Yeah. Kind of shrink it down a little. No, but you're right. Like this, at the end of the day, they're a business, right? They're trying to figure out what they want to do to get more people. And that's what I'm thinking for this new Reborn Marvel, that they're doing, the Heroes Reborn. I haven't been reading any of it, but I know it's for that very reason, trying to get new people into the hobby. So, but anyway, so let's see. We got Darth Timo in the house. What's going on, Darth Timo? Hello. We got Bobby here, Station Brother. Good to see you. Appreciate that, Entropi. Saying great show and chat.
Thanks, Kev.
Good stuff. So, all right. So let's see. All right. So let's talk a little bit about your channel.
Okay.
And just social media in general. So when did you decide? Because now you're, I assume you didn't have your YouTube channel or your Instagram channel before these 3 years ago.
No.
But so if that's the case, what made you decide to make an Instagram account and YouTube account? What came first, actually?
Instagram came first. So it's funny because I was just talking with Jimmy about this, and I've told some people, but like on chats and things, but the reason I got into having my Instagram was my wife. We were out to eat. It was back in September of 2018.
Yeah.
I had been collecting for a little bit. And we were out at dinner and my wife was like, "Hey, I created a fake Instagram account." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" She's like, "Well, she wanted to get into like the Magnolia Farm type of stuff, like the home makeover type things, like Chip and Jana Gaines, or just like motivational, like here's my coffee, like just, classic, like influencer style channel." Content, and she's like, "I just don't want to blow up my personal account. I wanted to have a theme. I wanted to kind of have a vision." And she got over that really quickly. But what's interesting is I was like, "Well, I'm going to make a fake channel then too." And she's like, "Well, what would you do yours on?" And I was like, comic books. Because none of my friends talk about comic books. And if I post comics, like I post pictures of us going to Comic Cons and people are like, "You're such a nerd, like going to Comic." I'm like, "Guys, I'm taking pictures with people from The Office." Like,
right. Yeah.
That's awesome. Show. Like Comic Cons are not just for nerds. I am a nerd, but that's there. Well, so I was like, "Well, I'm going to start it." So I went home and I started an account on Instagram called the Bearded Comic Nerd. And I was like, you know what? I did that for about a couple weeks. I was like, I'm having fun with this. I'm going to go to Twitter and, I'm going to start to get the name so I can save it in case I decide to do other stuff. So I go to Twitter, type in Bearded Comic Nerd. Nerd was one letter too long on my Twitter handle. So I had to change it. I was like, oh, all right, I'm going to do a 3-letter word. I was like, "Guy, I don't like that." I'm like, "Well, shoot, I'm a bro." Like, I'm a bro. Like, so I'm like, I'll do that. So first 2 weeks of my existence, I was known as the Bearded Comic Nerd.
Right.
And now I'm the Bearded Comic Bro. And so through that, I kind of was like, so I was posting on Instagram. I started to get a big following on Instagram by just interacting with people.
Yep.
I was like, well, I'll start a YouTube at least to see what it's about. And so I started my YouTube. I think I signed up in 2019 19 at the end. So I said 2018. It was 2019 in September too when I it's years go so by so quick.
They do. Yeah, they do.
I did that within like a 3-month period. So I started putting out, I was like, I'm going to put out a video a month. And so my first ever video on my channel was I talked about my top 10 favorite books of 2019, top 10 series. Yeah. And I was putting out content. I got views here or there. I think I had like 30 subscribers. And like come March, I was at like 32 subscribers. And I remember talking to my wife going, "Why am I doing this? Like trying to think up of a new video each month is so much work." Which is hilarious because now I put out at least 3 a week. But I was just like, "Oh, it's so much work. Like, I just don't know if I really want to do this." And so I was like, I'm probably out. Yeah. And I was like, I'm done. I'm not going to post any more content on my YouTube channel. I kept it up still.
Yeah.
And I then started watching. I tell you, there were two things that happened. COVID hit, and I started watching. We were about to go to a con right before COVID hit, and I'm going to butcher. What is it? Comic Core. They did the Mainframe Comic Con.
Oh, Mainframe.
Yeah. And that's where I first got exposed to John. He was doing an interview on a Mainframe Comic Con, and I was like, I started to see these YouTubers. I had never explored, even though I was doing YouTube for 3 months, I had never explored comic YouTube community.
Right.
And so once I got into seeing what they were doing with the Mainframe Comic Con, I started following people like John, Justarik, and Comic Jabroni. I started following those people, and I was watching, and I was watching. I remember clearly sitting in my basement watching one of Edwin's videos about Batman villains. Like, here are some Batman villains that you can spec on that you might not get, like that are very affordable, that aren't your well-known ones. And I'm like, this is the content I like. This is what I was like, I can do this. Because all I was always trying to do was review the first couple months. And I'm just like, I don't think I'm a gifted, talented reviewer of books. Like, I'm just like, why do you like it? I liked it. Yeah. And so I started looking at that content, and I saw people doing unboxings and things like that. And I'm like, I can do that. And then it just kind of blossomed into, man, I am doing a lot of content.
Yeah, man, it's kind of how it turns out. It's interesting to see how this kind of, again, unraveled in itself, and as you kind of discover new things as you go along, like the community. Same thing for me. Like, I didn't know that this community existed in any way, even Instagram. Like, I was going to ask, so when you created your Instagram account, you started with 0 followers, right? You just went and just started posting, and like, you didn't know these were not personal friends in any way. Nope. Like, you just
I literally just told my parents and in-laws yesterday that I have a comic YouTube channel, and
my gosh,
just because I wanted to keep my world separate. Because I just, that's how I'm wired. Like, no one cares about comics, and like, except for me. So I wanted to keep that kind of separate, and not like people, like, if they're watching my channel, I want them to watch it because they wanted to watch my content, not just because they're just my son does a YouTube channel, like, hey, like, and so that kind of is funny. So I started out with 0 subscribers or followers on Instagram and YouTube, just like everyone else. And I mean, I went and started following people that I liked and interacting with posts, or
you start seeing the same names come up that like your stuff. And
and I joined a comic group called the Comic Collective, and I'm still a part of their group where we talk about comic books, and we're in a group chat, which and things like that. But there was something missing about, like, when I was doing that group chat, which is when I found that idea of found this world of comic YouTube community, having these conversations, having the chat responding, having this live interaction with people who are passionate about the same things that you are. We might disagree on Marvel and DC,
Tom King,
Tom King and Scott Snyder. We're going to disagree, but in the sense of, like, we're still all comic book nerds, and that's a beautiful thing of, and it's why I think people are love this community so much. And you'll see that. I've noticed it now, even with me, of people who are in the chats. I'll see names that then I'll start to see, wow, now they're starting a channel just like I did, because they're like, no, I want to do this. I want to be on the video and be involved in that discussion. And, people like my homie Rod, who just jumped on, Justarik, and, one of the first people he is the biggest supporter of channels, shouting out channels, first person to really shout me out and give, me cred. And so, like, people like him and John Jabroni, like Perry, they were all like the first people who just like took me in and said, like, man, hey, do YouTube and have fun with it.
That's amazing, man. Yeah, no, and that's what's so cool too. It's like everybody, is just so welcoming when you get to really know the community and get to know the people, and you take time to engage with others. They start engaging with you. That's the same. Instagram was the same for me, where I'm just like, I started to see the same names, liking my stuff, commenting, to where I'm like, oh, well, let me follow their page, and I would see they post very similar. And then I got into like the hashtagging and tagging people that way, and and then it was just straight direct messages and just talking about, oh, did you just read this book? What'd you think? And that's what that's the, you know, so much fun to be able to just talk about a comic book I just read. Like the comic is great, but to talk about it with somebody and hear, you know, their opinions on it, it's a lot of fun. So really cool stuff to hear about that, and especially that ties into your platform on social. I want to say a quick hello to Newbie Comics in the house. What's going on, Newbie? Newbie does so much for the communities, really doing a lot of great things over on YouTube, especially. So appreciate the whole crew out there. Newbie, always good to see you. Let's see, we had said hi to Bobby earlier. There was one other person I might have. Oh, John was dropping links. Appreciate that. She said Charlie asked me to drop the links.
Yeah, see, it's not John. John can't admit that he likes me,
right?
And so I don't know why when I do these shows I say nice things about him. But Charlie is the one who's always dropping the links. So
she's the best. My man Joker, I was just on a YouTube chat with him earlier this morning for Comics and Coffee with him and the NY Warriors, so that was really fun. Good to see you, Joker. I saw when they were talking about when you mentioned you were a bro, you got a couple great comments here. TM saying I'm a bro. Bobby was saying I'm a bro, you know. I'm a bro. How you do know?
It just is so funny because like I feel like I'm become so associated with Bearded Comic Bro that like I just like it's funny that most people until I tell that story don't realize like Bearded Comic Bro almost didn't exist, and it didn't almost exist unless it was for my wife who was just like, oh, why don't you do this?
It was like almost on like a dare. It was almost like, oh, you're doing that, well I'm doing this.
I'm gonna do it too. Like I'm not gonna, like, if you can do it, I can have a fake account too.
Yep, that's so cool. Oh, and I was gonna say you mentioned that you just told your parents, you know, for a lot of your family for the first time. So same here. Like I did share with my mom and dad directly probably a couple months in when initially like 3 years ago or 2.5 years ago, but as far as everyone else, like no one knows. I like just told one of my cousins randomly, and I was just like, but don't tell the family, don't tell everybody that I'm doing this. Like I just don't, you know, I don't want to cross, you know, and like you said, a lot of them aren't into it anyways to begin with, so I don't, you know, they're not going to want to care, but they will want to follow me to support me, and I don't necessarily want that, you know, and seeing my family liking my stuff.
I'm glad I'm not the only person, because like like it's again, like it's nothing. I'm just like, I don't know, like
it's different worlds. Different worlds. So climbing, you know, brought up, mentioned your name. I did want to ask you, you know, have you always had the beard like right out of the womb, or was that something that you grew over time?
So here's the story behind the beard is very simple. I'm a bald man, or a balding man. And God blessed me with the bald patch in the back of my head there, so it looks like a bird's nest. I can grow it all around, but right there, nah. And so two things kind of happened. I was like, all right, well, I either got to shave my head or you know, take up Judaism, and so I can hide it. Like, you know, like I was like, that's the only two options. I was like, well, I'll just shave my head. And I looked like an little goofy person with a bald head, chubby cheeks, clean shaven. I was like, oh, that's gross.
You're like, no.
But I'm like, well, I can't grow out my hair, so I was just like, well, we'll just see what happens on here then, and
just let it rip.
I let it grow, and I trimmed it pretty short about 6 years ago, right after I married my wife, or 5 years ago. And it was so short, I'm like, I can't do it. I was like, I got to get my beard back. So this is about where I keep it. I've sometimes gotten it to pretty long. And I think the missus enjoys it a little shorter than this. So I try to keep both of us happy of like,
gotcha,
more what I want.
right. No, that's good. I struggle. I mean, this thing took me 6, 7 years, 8 years, maybe, I don't know. And on the sides, I get these little doing, you know, like it's all I get ever. So I can't. Right? I'll never be there.
But now I can't. It gets a part of my name. I can't shave my beard.
Yeah, no, you literally. It's all branding, like, bro. It's all.
Like, otherwise, it'll be the balding comic bro. And I mean, it would work. We'd make it. I might have to rebrand, and I'm just
the double B's. It kind of works. A couple things here. I saw Comics and Culture in the house. Want to say hello to Comics and Culture. Thanks for stopping in. Climbing Comics, Alan says he totally feels the same way about sharing with the family. He said it's a different worlds, you know, converge. Yeah, so totally there. TM says Greg was born with a beard. The doctor handed it to his mom and said, "Congratulations, it's a bearded bro." That's kind of how it went down. Let's see. There was happy. Yeah, there you go, Rod. Happy wife, happy life. I like to say happy spouse, happy house, but some people don't like that saying. So here you go. DJ says, you can never take off the beard.
You can never take a it's funny too. Like the first like couple videos I did, I wore my hat, and it also is the same thing. Like if I show up on screen without my hat, people are like, whoa.
Right. Who's this? Yeah. I've done that a couple times where I don't have my hat on, right? I have my glasses on. They're like, who's this guy?
Who is this? Who is this?
Cool. So, do you have a book or two that you want to show off here that maybe you have a nice story with, or something that means something special to you?
Yeah. So, I got a couple here that I got. And if your fans hated me already because of Tom King, so this is the first. So it's Batman issue 1, volume 3.
Oh yeah, there it is.
I picked this up. I read it, and I took it to a con because David Finch was going to be there, and this was the first book I ever did the autographed, and he did a little bat remark there, the bat symbol, and sent it in the CGC, and it came back in 9.8, and I was blown away. I'm like, wow, that's really cool. So this was my first ever slab I owned.
Cool, very cool.
And so it'll always have a special place in my heart because this series is so special to me as a collector, and the fact that it is signed with the remark and it's a 9.8. I mean, I read it, like I physically like read my comic, and I'm like, I apparently did it well enough that it's
you didn't damage it.
So so it's that's one I always get to. To say with that theme, this is a really cool one because my wife and I show this off on a lot of streams. So if you guys have seen it, hey, it's all right. We go to cons. That's something we do. We did it before I ever had a YouTube channel. And she's really excited to go to cons now to see once I have a YouTube channel, like, what are we going to do now? But this is the controversial issue that everyone. But what I love about it is I've been trying to make it my goal to go around to the cons and get all the artists to sign. So I got Greg Capullo there, David Finch, Neil Adams there, Mitch Gerards. And I was one of the cons that we were about to go to 2 weeks before it shut down because of COVID. Tom King was going to be there, and I was going to have this bad boy signed. And but so that's kind of like one of my like treasures of it's not a valuable book. Neither are super valuable, but it means a lot to me because of like my love for Batman and all these artists that like Neil Adams on that book is iconic as an artist. Greg Capullo, his run with Snyder and Finch and, Mitch, like they're all, so I just want to keep growing that. They're really cool.
Yep.
And I got 2 other books I'll show off.
Sure.
This is my first one I've ever got a sketch on. And this was at a con.
That's cool, man.
So
jeez, look at that.
Don't know if I'm sorry if that's my mic messing up or something.
Oh no, you're good.
So Donnie Cates signed it, but then Ryan Stegman, it was funny. I went and took the book, and Donnie's like, "Hey, are you gonna have Ryan draw something on that?" And I was like, "Sure." So he's like, "All right, I'll put it up there," and I'm like, "He won't just draw something like I'm in line. Like there's these other lines,
right?"
And the lady, like his handler, was, "Hey, do you want him to do a remark on this?" I was like, "Yeah, like, do I just drop it off and he comes back?" She's like, "No, he'll do it right now." I'm like, "There's all these people in line." She's like, he's like, "Oh, it'll take some like 2 minutes." Yeah. I'm like, "No." And I'm sitting there watching him draw, like, and it was just so cool that was my first experience of like seeing an artist, work on a book that like this is a one of a kind for me. Again, it's it's a 9.8. I don't care because I went and then sent it in the CBCS just so I could have it certified and things like that. And it's in the new case of theirs, which are super.
I hear they're really nice.
They're really nice. So, a lot of these they're not valuable books. I have a lot more expensive books, but they're personal to me.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about collecting is finding stuff. And this is a really cool book to me too. This is a special one too, because this is the first time I've gotten some AOKs, but this is the first time I ever had someone do an actual sketch cover AOK for me. And this is awesome. My homie Roscoe.
He's the best, Roscoe.
Roscoe is fantastic. And he was like, "Hey, I want to send you something." I was like, "Dude, you don't have to." And he sent me this of the Riddler who laughs, because he knows the Riddler is my favorite Batman villain.
That's cool.
And so he's like, hey, I just did this cool, unique take. And so to have this, like, again, as part of my collection, eventually, like once Roscoe gets his certifications and stuff, so I can get it slabbed and certified, I'm going to do that, because I do the books like those that I get them slabbed so I can keep them in the condition, because like I'm not reading that book ever, but I want it to stay beautiful. So like those books mean a lot, like that someone took the time because they like the content and the friendship that, you know, the content I'm putting out, or the friendship that we created through this community, that they want to, you know, that they want to share that with me. And I was blown away by that when I got it. Like, I'm like, my wife's like, you never shut up. Like, what? You're not saying, I'm like, dude just did this for me.
Yeah, that is awesome. I have to say, shout out to Roscoe. He's the one that helped carry me to a victory on your show.
Right, that's right. Roscoe was your partner on Labor Frame. The only reason you won, because you were new to.
I like to say I'm the reason he won, but you know, yeah, that it could be that.
No,
one too,
I can watch the replay. You were not the reason at all.
You're mixing it up.
Roscoe's shoulders were hurting from carrying you.
Yeah, he had a whole arm brace and everything the next day. It was pretty brutal.
That's why Roscoe hadn't been on for a while, because he's like, my shoulders are still recovering from when I carried.
Oh, it's so funny, dude. No, that looks awesome, man. It's so cool, and it's cool to hear some of these stories you're talking about. This is why I like this part of the segment of the show, is hearing these books that it's not about the value money wise. I want to hear why these books are special to you, and it's not going to be, if you did give that to anybody, it wouldn't have that same story behind it or anything. It just wouldn't matter to them, but it matters to you. So it's really cool that you have those books.
And they all are just, you never can see because how my angle is, but they're always back there, because I'm like, no, I love it, man. Let's see, Rod here saying so many cool artists in the community. Absolutely, there are a ton of them. Brother Joe, I missed you earlier. Good to see you, station brother. Thanks for hanging out with us. Thought there was maybe one other. Oh, quick hello to Mercy Collectibles over in Sweden. Good to see you, Andres, as always. So very cool with the books. So my question for you, so you talked a little bit about these 18 long boxes or however many you have, plus, you know, all these extra books that you have now. What is, at least as of right now, because I know goals can change, but at least currently, what's your goal for the big picture for as you get older? You know, where do you see a majority of these books going? Are you gonna sell them? Are you gonna pass them down to your kids? Are you going to take them to the grave with you? Are you gonna keep maybe one or two? Like, what do you think the plan is at the moment? You know, I don't know, because it's gonna change. I have a standing relationship with my store owner and my brother-in-law.
Okay.
I've always told my wife, if anything happens to me ever, you go to one of those two people. I'm like, I mean, my store owner is a great dude. He's hooked me up so many times, supports my channel, supports my show. And is always helping me on the hunt with stuff. So if you're over in Columbus, Ohio, check out Crazy Comics. Then their new store is a dude who loved comics and started it up. But I was like, he'll tell you what they're worth, because eBay ain't going to tell you the right stuff. Other people aren't going to tell you. I'm like, no, I'm like, so you go. Like, if anything happens to me, he's the one who will know the best. And because of our relationship and friendship, like, he will, like, I mean, I was one of his first customers at the store, so I'm still like at the grandfathered in price of like my discount on the pool. So like, he's good to me. So I always joke. I'm like, yeah, that's where we'll go. You know, I have two short boxes for my girls. They're young right now. If they want to get into collecting, man, that'd be awesome. I'm not going to force them into it, but we definitely, they have their own short boxes. Like, I just picked up one for my daughter to get another one. And she, you know, it's kind of like the cartoony superheroes on it. I was like, and I told my wife she was out. I was like, I need another box. I'm just going to switch out, like, get it. And I was like, tell her it's for her. And she was so excited. And, you know, so she'll come and look at like her kid comics with me and stuff sometimes, but still a little too young for the hobby.
Sure. So
if they get into it, the comics will 100% go to them, because my wife's not going to want them from that. She does the hobby with me through YouTube and stuff like that. And is huge support, but she doesn't read comics. But if my kids get into it, man, they'll absolutely get them. Will I sell? I mean, sure, I could. That's not why I'm into collecting right now. So I don't want to say like,
Right.
I'll never sell my collection, but
Sure.
I mean, if I pass away, I'll tell my wife, man, if the girls don't want them, sell my collection, because you're going to be okay.
Yeah, right. You'll get some, you'll get some dough from these books. Yeah. No, it's good. It's good that you even have that kind of plan or mention that, even because there are family. I mean, I've talked about this on the show before with others where, I mean, sometimes families don't know what to do. I mean, obviously we hear these stories,
Right.
And people are out there to take advantage of that, unfortunately. Yeah. And you could have thousands of dollars and not even know it. So it is good to at least have that kind of, backup plan or next step, hey, this is where you could take it. So, but very cool. I'm always curious where to hear, people go. And I get it. It changes. Yeah. It goals can change all the time. I'm at the point right now where I do need to sell just to save some room, and try to go through and find things that I don't care for as much anymore. Yeah. So
yeah, but, I'm blessed and cursed that I have plenty of space. I've been thinking about doing a tour sometime video.
Yeah. Oh, you should.
Cool. So I have plenty of space. It just is rearranging stuff, but it also is just, I hate shipping books. So I'm like,
yeah, it's a lot of work. It is.
So I think if I did sell, I'd be like, hey, I'm going to do a garage sale just to clean out some books.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I see Old Wolf hanging out with us.
My homie Old Wolf.
Good to see you, brother. All right. So, one other question for you, and then we'll get into some of the rapid questions. But this particular question is one of my personal favorites that I like to ask guests that come on, because it all has to do with a new collector. If you were to talk to someone who was brand new to this hobby, or maybe hasn't even jumped in yet, and they're just like considering, they're on the fence, maybe because of the movies or the TV shows influenced them to start exploring or picking up books. If there's one general piece of advice, or you can get as detailed as you want, but what comes to mind that you would give someone new that's just getting into collecting?
I feel like it's probably advice that I would hope you hear a lot. I would sit down with someone and say, what do you like? And really, what do you like? And if they say Batman, I'll say pick something else. Because that's a bad hobby to get into.
Yeah.
Because I'm screwed. No, it's something different. But honestly, I'd be like, figure out what you like. If it's 90s and nostalgia books that you read as a kid and you want to read for that reason, do that.
Yeah.
But pick something and put your focus into one area, because I think especially with me, I have that like, ooh, new shiny thing. Like, ooh, like I've had to catch myself sometimes. I'm like, oh, there's a, first appearance of so-and-so, like, it's $25. I should get, I'm like, do I really care about like the third iteration of the Green Goblin? Like, like, I don't like, yeah, it could pop off, but I'm not selling books right now anyways. Like, and so I think really is like, don't get caught up into the, keeping up with the Joneses, aspect. Sure. I think that's, I have to remind myself that a lot as a YouTuber, of like, I'm not going to have collections like some of these people, and I'm okay with that. I love Super Pro, so I'm going to have all the Super Pro books. No one else wants Super Pro, but I'm going to have them. Yeah. I'm going to have those types of things, right. Or collect the random things that like, trying to find stuff for, that I like, or a cover that I think my wife might like because she's getting into at least the aspect of art of side of comics. And, sure. And because she does YouTube with me, that she's finding out more about stuff. Yeah. Like Rod said, stay in your lane, figure out what works for you and what you can do too. Because it can be dangerous of like, oh, I'm spending too much money because I'm trying to keep pace with stuff that I don't really have a care for and I don't have a need for. And I've told myself I don't buy duplicate books to like, well, this might pop off, I might sell it. I'm like, I'm sitting on multiple books that I'm like, I just don't want to sell. So I just don't do it. Yeah.
No, I think that's a great advice. It definitely can be overwhelming to the point where it could turn you off from the hobby if you get too much caught up into the hype and into trying to chase down certain books. And then as you said, like, and then sometimes you wind up with books you don't even care for, and you have like boxes of them, and you're like, oh, what did I just do? Just because of hype and trying to, like you said, keeping up with the Joneses in a sense. So I think it's great advice.
And thank you, Charlie, for dropping my link again.
Oh,
Again,
there it is.
Charlie's my biggest fan. She watches and is one of the first to comment every Friday night on our show. Name that character. So
Shout out to Charlie. And yeah, I did put the links in the description, guys. So, make sure that if you aren't subbed up already, I saw that Brother Joe here just said, thanks, Justin, for letting us meet another great member of the community.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate all you guys hanging out with us here. There was someone else. Oh, I saw Lasso earlier. I don't think I said hi to Lasso.
Hey,
so
Magic Lasso.
Ryan? Thanks for hanging out with us as well. Oh, and Anthony, comics are great. I was just streaming with him earlier today too, over on the NY Warriors. So good to see you, Anthony. Yeah. So, Fuzzy says that's real life advice too, not just.
I mean, it's how it translated for me. You know,
can be applied to anything. Yeah,
it really does apply to stuff of because it's so easy to get into that trap of, especially with social media, of stuff like people posting like everyone's life seems so much better on social media than it really is.
Of course.
And man, you can't compare stuff like that. So it's the same with collecting.
Yep.
You know, people have a lot better collections on Instagram than they probably do.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. Focus on you. Focus on what you can do and what you like, as you're saying here. So, great advice, Greg. I really appreciate that. And again, this is just I always like to kind of provide some of that because there are new collectors all the time, and a lot of new collectors don't like to necessarily ask it if they're embarrassed or they just, it's an intimidating hobby.
It's intimidating. So, I mean, I told you, I read comic books as a kid, and I went into a store and I'm like, nope. I'm done.
Right.
Like,
it turns you off. Yeah.
I get it. So, I mean, to do whatever we can, like, and that's kind of how I've approached my aspect of YouTube and stuff too, is like, if someone asks me, like, if someone takes the time to comment on a video of mine, like, I want to comment and respond. Like, I don't want it to ever become where it's not. And if it does, man, I'm sorry in advance.
Right.
But like,
we'll have John snap you out of it.
Right. Like, snap, Greg. Like, but I don't want it to ever become this like a gatekeeper of like, hey, you don't know comics, and and so that's why I tried to shift my focus too of my channel to make it more of a, if you like comics, you can enjoy comic book content on my channel. But if you're new to it, or if you're a YouTuber or something and you want to watch content with your significant other or someone, you can like, oh, hey, we can have fun and laugh at this. And it's still comic themed, but like, that's just kind of how I focus this stuff of like, I just want it to be engaging for people. I want the hobby to be something that people like. And because I feel like I missed out on so much of the hobby because I got turned off right at a point where I feel like I shouldn't have. Sure. So I try to keep that in my mind too.
Yeah, no, great points all around. And, again, just, you're trying to be, it's better to, I want to see, it's good to see more people like yourself who are trying to make it a welcoming hobby, not so much a, like you said before, like a gatekeeper type thing. There are a lot, it can feel like that at times where it's like, oh, I don't know enough about something, so I shouldn't get into it, or I shouldn't share my opinion but it's like, no, it's like, get into the conversations and stuff. Talk comics, so it's cool. So, all right, with that being said, I do want to jump into some of the rapid questions here. I know we're coming up just around the hour mark.
Told you I can talk.
I know. Yeah, no, it's well, it's trouble because we both can talk, so that it's duplicate the time. But we have 21 people hanging with us. Appreciate all you guys in the chat right now. Thank you so much for taking the time. And of course, if you're watching this replay right now, I always like to say thank you. Pointing at you watching the replay right now, thank you so much. So make sure you hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and follow Greg over on his channels as well, IG and YouTube. Put all of it in the description below. Let's get into the rapid questions. Those questions that they're not all necessarily so rapid, but we'll try to keep them rapid. We should call them sometimes rapid questions.
Right, I like that.
So with that being said, so my first question to you is, if you had to choose one character of all time to choose as your favorite character, who is that?
Batman. I mean,
Batman, number one. Nice. He's done so much for you, in terms of getting you into it and everything.
Batman has made me broke, but has given me so much joy in my life. So
it's funny how that kind of works, right?
Right.
Broke but happy. Let's see. Next question is, if you could have one superpower, what would that be?
Ooh, one superpower. What would it be? I feel like for this question, people ask that all the time, and I really don't have a good answer. Because I hate heights, so I don't want to fly. I don't want super speed because I love a good road trip.
You don't want to rush it. Yeah.
So like maybe like, you know what? I'm gonna stick with Batman's superpower, and if I could have one superpower, I'd be rich.
I was just gonna say that, dude. I was literally like, "What about being
So
rich,
I can
man?
fund
You
my
can be
hobby
Batman."
because I don't need super strength. I'm not beating up anybody. I don't need to fly. I don't need. Just give me Batman's superpower, which is he's rich, and then I can buy more Batman books.
Dude, I think you are the first person to say that as a superpower, and I can't believe it's taken this long for somebody to say that. But it is a great idea for a superpower. Just be rich, man. There's so much you could do with that. I love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Very good. So let's see. Let's go to the next one, which is, who is your favorite? I'm going to say current. Who is your favorite current artist?
Current artist right now, man.
If you had to pick one, I know there's a million really
Clayman.
good ones out there.
I love what Clayman does.
Oh, nice. Okay.
There's not a time I pick up a Clayman book where I don't go, it's beautiful, it's stunning. So if I had to pick one, it's Clayman.
That's totally fair. Yep. I like that. I like that answer. Let's see. We have what's your favorite superhero film?
Ooh.
It could be new or old. It could be.
All right, let me ask you this: are you superhero film or comic book movie?
Oh, I should say comic book movie, something based on comics.
Because
no, you're right. That's fair. There are some superhero films.
So that's because my favorite is another hidden obsession of mine is Dick Tracy. And so the 1990s Dick Tracy movie with Warren Beatty, Madonna, Al Pacino.
Yeah. Wow.
I fell in love with that as a kid, and I mean, I have two cabinets like this, right behind me. One is my comic books, one is full Batman stuff, and I have another one over there which is full of Dick Tracy memorabilia, action figures, cards, games, video games, movies, records. So that movie will always have a special place in my heart too. Of just growing up watching Dick Tracy, going back collecting those and the comic strips of those. My other grandma bought me a Dick Tracy cop car from a flea market one time. So my grandparents are the ones that just feed into my hobby of like, yeah, sure.
I love it. So very cool, man. Yeah, no, that's dope, man. That's dope. Are you all right? I'm gonna ask this question. I don't know where you stand with the X-Men in general, but if you had to choose your favorite X-Men team, would you choose who's your favorite, or the original team or the new X-Men team with Claremont's X-Men team?
Okay. So here's where I'm at with X-Men. My knowledge of X-Men is X-Men the animated series.
Okay.
So that would be my team because that's my knowledge. So
that's fair.
I don't know if that's technically what is that
we'll give it to you.
Is that
it's more than new? It's probably more than new. Yeah. Okay. You got like Wolverine and Storm.
Yeah. So like that TV show is great for me. I actually got into, because I know you guys and John are big X-Men fans.
Yeah.
John's
listening now.
I appreciate everything about I still will watch. I'm watching them on the Disney Plus, the X-Men show.
Yeah.
It was that and Batman were ahead of its time as TV shows.
Yeah.
When I got back into collecting, I was picking up and I was reading right before Hickman, was it Uncanny X-Men, where they all kind of like blew up and they were trying to find the different X-Men and stuff like that. Like whatever the series was right before Hickman took over.
Right before. Oh, yeah.
Like immediately right before.
Yep. I read a little bit of that.
I was reading that series and I liked it.
Yep.
I want to get back into X-Men. I do. I read House of Powers and
Powers of X. Yeah.
Powers of X.
Yeah.
Hickman's writing just is too smart for me.
Yeah.
No discredit. And again, it's not like what I said at the beginning of the show. I don't like, he's a bad writer. He's not. It's just not for me.
Right.
So, once if it ever gets out of the Hickman verse, I'll probably get back into it because I like what X-Men characters are and what they stand for. And I think I'm excited I'm not going to collect them because y'all are nuts with them already and the prices are too high, but I'm excited to get back into X-Men.
Nice.
I just have to wait for Hickman to be off of it because he hurts my brain.
Totally understandable, man. And in his style of writing is definitely not for everyone. That's for sure. So I think that's all fair to say. I wanted to highlight real quick. Fuzzy says I had Dick Tracy on the Sega. Loved the cartoon as a kid as well.
I got the Sega game and the NES game right over there.
That's awesome. That is awesome. We got my man Luke hanging out with us. What's going on? Hydra Collectibles in the house from the UK. Thanks for stopping in. We also had Slim Comics and More. What's going on, Sean? Good to see you. I want to make sure I didn't miss anyone there. I think we're good. So with that being, love that answer. I was curious where you stood with that. So
yeah.
Next one I want to ask is where was I? If you could go back in time, like literal time travel,
okay,
and buy one comic book off the shelf for that cover price that you could not ever sell, it would be with you forever, all the way into the grave, buried with you and everything, but just one that you would just love to own, that maybe you don't own right now, what would that one comic book be?
Detective Comics 27.
Oh, okay. Yep. Of course.
I almost would have said Batman 1 just because I'm trying to collect that whole series, but I know I'm never going to get anything under 25 and below, basically. So even if I had that one book, I'm still not going to be able to complete it all because I can't sell that book to get the other. So I'm sticking with Detective Comics 27, my first Batman appearance, and that'll be all good for me because that cover is iconic. I have a poster of it hanging down here. Every time you walk down, you see.
Nice.
So
very nice, very nice. I was making a joke a while ago when John had one of his news things and he was talking about some speculation, and I said he was talking about like some villains for DC, and I said the main book you want to speculate on is Batman's first full appearance. I think that's the book to own.
Well, it's funny because what's the problem is so many of these villains show up in like Batman issue 1. Mm-hmm. Is the first appearance of Catwoman, Joker, and Hugo Strange. Now, Hugo Strange is not a book that people are speculating on, but like that's like he appeared in like 3 issues in Batman series before like he popped back up in the modern age.
Right.
And but you're never going to get an issue number 1 a true first appearance of him because he's a third appearance in a Batman one.
Super old. Yeah. No, it's I didn't even really know much about him up until recently when I started reading some Harley Quinn, because he's kind of playing a role in that right now. But that's interesting. So great choice there. I think that obviously you cannot go wrong with that book. Let's see. Let's change. All right. So I think those are my comic book related questions.
Okay.
I have a couple non-comic book related questions I always like to ask. So let's see. We'll start off with music. Where do you stand with music? What is your favorite genre, if you have one, and who is your favorite artist or band, if you have one, or at least that comes to mind?
So favorite genre of music is hip hop. I love hip hop. I've gone to more hip hop concerts than probably most people have. I mean, it's across the board of what they are. But my favorite artist doesn't fall into hip hop. My favorite artist is actually Justin Timberlake.
Oh, hell yeah. He's an entertainer, man.
He's an entertainer. I like the music. And I know people I say like, really? I'm like, man, music is a huge passion of mine. I can't play music. I can't sing. And so like, I think I'm even more awe-inspired of like that people can do it. So again, my wife and I would go to Comic Cons and we would go to music festivals. And so when both like, we didn't know what to buy each other for Christmas or birthdays this year because we always buy each other concert tickets, or we're kind of always like, hey, let's buy each other experiences.
Totally.
I love that. So like we buy each other concert tickets to go see bands that we want to see, or music festival or things like that. And we're just like, what do we buy each other? So we're so ready to hit up some music festivals this summer, or eventually whenever we can.
Yep. I love that. And let me just add too, because we will have to at some point hang out if I'm over in your area or you're over in mine. But me and my girlfriend do the same thing in terms of like the gifts, like giving the experience, like buying, buying tickets to a show or to a con and being able to live it as opposed to just having something physical there. So it's really cool to hear that, because you create these memories and stories that you have forever. So I love that. We weren't too far from you guys a couple years ago. It just gone downhill. We used to go to the Made in America festival in Philly. Okay.
So like the last one we went to, I think it was like Chance the Rapper, Coldplay was there. And so it's a fun a fun hobby to have.
Yeah, if you we'll have to you keep me posted when you start going back to some of these shows and cons and
absolutely.
Philly's only like 2 hours, so it's not too bad at all. All right, let's see. So we talked a little bit about music. Give me your favorite non-comic book related film that comes to mind. I know that could be tough because there's obviously so many great films out there, and it's a very generic question. But if there's one you just love,
I've always tried to make a top 10 favorite movie. I'm a movie buff. I love.
I know you are. Yeah.
One of my, probably two of my favorite movies are Memento.
That's great.
And also Usual Suspects. Those are two great movies. I just think, they're always up there as some of my favorites. There are other ones that are like nostalgic for me, and so they're always going to make that place. But those are two that I just think are great movies overall, and that you can watch over and over again and pick up little different things. And I think that's what I love about movies. I love about comics is when I can read something and pick up something again that I didn't get
the second time around.
And I think that's why I like hip hop too. Like to go back and listen to lyrics and I'm like, oh my gosh, I missed that lyric that they said. Like that is a dope line. And I completely but because for me, it's entertainment that can keep giving me stuff with replay or watchability.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's a really great point too, and a good way to look at it for any entertainment. So I really like that. We got Tomorrow Cinema in the house. What's going on, man? Good to see you, my brother. Station.
And if he was here earlier, he would have heard me say that I hate packing up things and shipping out stuff. And I'm literally looking at 3 books that I have that he wanted to give away that I need to send out. I'm staring at them right now, man. They look beautiful. They're signed. They're great, but it's going to take me a while to just pack them up because I am so lazy when it comes to that.
He's a patient man. You can hang it out there, Manny, right? All right, let's see. If you could go anywhere in the world, you and your wife, no pandemics, completely safe, and you could just travel there for a vacation for an entire week, where would that be if it was paid for and everything?
Man, there's so many great places. I've gotten to go to Scotland. I've gotten to go to England already. So there are some that I've gotten to
explore. Yeah.
But I think if there's one, I want to go to New Zealand.
Oh, nice.
Because I want to go to Hobbiton. I want to go to where they have where they shot stuff from Lord of the Rings.
Right.
Those were books I read growing up as a kid. The movies, even if you're not a Lord of the Rings fan, like, just like the little hobbits in the houses in the hills, like it'd be cool. And I feel like New Zealand would be just a beautiful place anyways.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say that because I don't know.
I think it's a great choice. And shout out to my friend Victoria from Read Across the Stars. She lives over in New Zealand. So, I've seen videos. She showed me beaches and stuff there. It's just a beautiful location there in general.
I hope she's been to Hobbiton then.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never asked her, but I would assume that maybe she's visited before. But great choice there. I like that. Let's talk a little bit about let's dive into sports here because I am very curious. For certain things of where you stand. I know we talked a little bit about Cincinnati Bengals before, but my overall questions for you are,
now's when your chat's gonna just plummet.
Everyone's gone. Yeah. Hey guys. Where do you stand? What's your favorite sport? And then what are your favorite teams of those sports?
So my actual favorite sport is wrestling, but not professional wrestling, like the actual sport of wrestling. Like that's what I did. That's what I did in high school. I did it in college. I coached it for about 10 years.
So you really are, bro. Okay.
So I love that sport for me, but like for watching it for like professional sports, it's professional sports is going to be basketball, and for college sports it's football.
Okay, it's a good
blend. Now I watch if it's sports, it's on my TV. So
right. Well, I know we were just talking golf before we even jumped on here, so I was like, oh sweet, like a man that knows golf, this is good.
There's golf going on right now. And I got to see how my boy from Ohio State is doing. He was hometown boy, was 3 under at one point. And
that
Bo is it Bo Haig or
Oh yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
I know who you're talking about. I don't know him that well, but
I
know
don't
who you're
either.
talking
I just, but it's because it's his hometown
about. Yeah,
course right
yeah,
now. So.
yeah. I love it. I need Rom. I mean, I know Rom's he's up there right now, but need him to win for my leagues, for my fantasy, my DFS leagues.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. So I love that you're kind of all over the place. So you mentioned basketball. Like, who's your team?
So, oh man, this is gonna get me in hot water. NBA basketball. I'm a player fan.
Yeah, I am too. I follow.
So I am a LeBron James fan.
I'm with you 100%.
And so I had my teams growing up. I was born in Florida, so Orlando Magic was my team with Penny Hardaway and Shaq and Horace Grant. Then I lived in Chicago for a couple years. So I mean, I grew up adoring Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Horace Grant again on the ball, then right. Like Steve Kerr, like that, those teams, like I was in the prime age of like, as a 10, 12-year-old kid, 14, watching Michael Jordan play basketball. Yeah. But I love, and so I never rooted for the Cavs. They were the only pro team in Ohio, but I saw LeBron play in high school in the state finals because it was 10 minutes from where I was living.
Sure.
And I remember saying, I'm like, wherever LeBron goes, I'm going to be a fan of that team. And he went to Cavs, and I was like, perfect. I'm going to be a Cavs fan. And so I'm still a Cavs fan.
Right.
Because of what LeBron did there. But I follow LeBron. So
yeah,
I followed him to the Lakers. Now, when he went to the Heat, I will say this. I didn't like LeBron for a year.
Oh, okay.
When he went to the Heat, because of just how it all went down, I looked at it like this. My relationship with LeBron was very simple of this. It's like an ex-girlfriend. I want her to be well. Like, what? We broke up. Like, I wish you the best. Right. I just don't want to see you happily married as soon as you break up with me. Like, I want that good stuff to happen to you a little bit later when I'm in a better place in my life too.
Right.
So I was like, I rooted against him the first year in the finals because I'm like, no, I don't want you to be happy. And then the next year I'm like, okay, you can win now. I'm okay with it. Time's passed. Time is healed the wound. I didn't burn any of myself or anything. I just didn't want to see him win it right away because I'm like,
so funny.
I wanted it to be with the Cavs.
I totally get it, man. Yep.
I wish him well, and it's still there, and
yeah. Yeah, I like the idea of that, especially for NBA, and NBA, there's players nowadays, especially they jump around
so much. So, you can't.
Yeah, it's hard to be, just a single team. If and I never really got into it growing up. So for me, getting into sports or getting into basketball more recently, to me, it's been more about the players. I mean, I did watch when I was a kid, but right now, LeBron, I just enjoy greatness. Like I just enjoy talent and seeing an awesome. I'm entertained like anytime that man plays. So it's I know they just got kicked out of the playoffs or whatever, but he's still a dangerous man for sure.
Yeah, and that's the thing about I think that's what translates really well with the NBA because you have aspects of the NBA players change teams so often nowadays. It's just commonplace that I think you can have your fans. I know I see TK just hopped in. I know he's got to be a big fan that the Knicks were back in the playoffs this year, right? But as a player fan, they move so much, so you got to just enjoy it as a general that you're watching some of these athletes do some amazing stuff and
what they're doing. Yeah. Nope, that's a great way to look at it. Let's see. I think I have just one more question for you. Actually, two. I got two.
I'm here.
First one is, and it's going to go back to music a little because you mentioned concerts, and I was curious about this. Could you name your best experience at a concert, or who it was that you saw? What comes to mind, like your favorite concert that you ever went to?
Man,
we're digging deep here, Greg.
I know. Well, let me pull something up just so I can.
Yeah.
Just so I can show you something, just because I know people I've seen a lot, and I know people like to exaggerate. So this right here is and you're not going to be able to see it, but there we go. There's a list of every single artist that I have seen in concert with my wife.
Oh, that's awesome.
This has been a 5-year stint with a year off from
from the pandemic. Wow, that is insane. That's such a good idea. Oh, I love it.
Because people always ask like, who have you seen? And I'm like, oh man. So there's a couple experiences. Coldplay put on one of the best things concerts we saw at a festival. They were really good.
Yeah.
Also, we went to we saw Jadena, who not a very popular person, but he had the song Classic Man back in the day. But we got there right at the right time at the festival. We were like 2 rows away from we were front row stage. Yeah. And like that just experience in of itself, like he just brought the energy. We had that same experience when we got to see Ice Cube perform down in Florida a couple years ago. Here's the stage, here's us. Like, if it wasn't 1,000 degrees, it would have been a lot better. But it was freaking June in Florida. But
oh god,
there's so many great ones. But those are, again, it's the moments, it's these experiences. Of going to see these artists with my wife, of like just getting to have that time, and it's a blast.
I love that. I'm gonna steal that and start making our list, because we definitely have some. I don't know if we have as many as you have, but we definitely have.
Because I forget, because I always put the opening acts. I put stuff of like I forget. I'm like, oh my goodness, we did go see Mumford and Sons. Oh, we did go see.
It is nice to have that information, especially it's like a diary in a way. Like it's just something to kind of keep up with, like looking back at and being like, oh, remember when we saw these people with these people? Like,
right?
That's really cool.
Because then it tricks back into like, oh, you remember that? Yeah, we were at this festival and we went to this place and we saw this. Like, it just allows us to have that conversation by instantly going like, or like, wait, when did we see them? Like, did we really? Like, oh.
That's awesome, man. I love it. I saw here Anthony was saying people in the NBA don't want to build a true team. They just want the dollars and to build their ego. I think that may be the case for some, for sure. Seeing where the game has gone. Not everybody, but
right.
All right. So what's up, top of the pops in the house? Good to see you. All right, last question, and this is the one I like to always end on. I'm sure anyone that's been watching my show knows this question is going to be, if it's a Friday night and it's just you and your wife, you have the house to yourself, and it's dinner time, and you have the choice of anything you want for dinner, whether you're ordering out or you're cooking at home or you're ordering to be delivered. What is your go-to meal? What comes to mind for Friday night meal of your choice for dinner?
Man, if we're going out or if we're gonna go out to a restaurant, there's a place here in Columbus. It's one of our favorite spots. It's called the Pearl.
Okay,
it's a little bougie, but it's not too bougie. Like, it's like a little, just a little. Again, if you guys are watching and you haven't realized, like, I'm all about making experiences and things. Like, so this was one of the first restaurants that my wife and I went to. It wasn't one; it was the first restaurant we ate at as a married couple. Yeah. And so it always has a special place in our heart. But it just is really good food. But I would see it, for me, it would be on a Tuesday night, because every Tuesday night they have their oysters.
Our seafood here
are dirt cheap. Like, it's I think it's $1 an oyster. Like, and they're and
delicious.
So I get those. I just get them baked, get the cheese on it. Nice. My wife gets she loves the food there, so she'll get whatever, and they have a brown sugar pie with ice cream on it afterwards. I
love it.
It's so, I like it because she can find food that she loves and is really good food. Yeah, I can get my seafood. But she doesn't love seafood as much as I do. Okay, but
a little bit of everything though for anybody there. Yeah,
my first experience, my parents had a boat out in the Chesapeake, out by your neck of the woods one time.
Oh yeah, in Baltimore.
Yeah. So they were probably. I'd have to look. We'll do that off. But I was soft shell crabs. Yep, breaking those bad boys open, and I was like, man, it was an experience.
the Baltimore, the harbor, like the sea. You love seafood, man. Try to hit up the harbor sometime.
Yep, we did.
You did. All right. That's it is some of the best seafood down there ever. It ruins it for anywhere else. A lot of other places, like I won't eat, I won't get crab meat like anywhere else, just because I once you have it there, it's just like, I don't know if I can go back,
Well, we went to this place where their boat was docked. And we went to this restaurant, and then I'm like, crab nachos, absolutely. Like, because it's like we literally were sailing their sailboat and avoiding the crab pots, that then were being used to then pull up that day so we could eat them. I'm like, man, this is fantastic.
Oh my gosh! And what about a drink? Do you have a go-to drink of choice, or do you drink? I don't know if you drink.
I am bourbon. I have.
Oh yeah, that's right. I know you drink.
I have my any type of bourbon. I love
Woodfords. I like Woodfords.
I love Woodfords. One of my favorite. So I am blessed to be. Again, you got to come down to Ohio because we are I'm about a 2.5 hour drive from the Bourbon Trail, the start of the Bourbon Trail.
Oh, cool.
And
cool.
Angel's Envy, Woodford, Jim Beam, you name it. Like,
yeah,
it's when like a 3.5 hour drive at some points where you're at. So man, yeah, bourbon is fantastic.
The drink of choice. I am with you, man. I've been on a bourbon kick for a while now, and I'm just recently starting to explore some Scotch. But you know, bourbon's my winter drink too, especially.
Yeah, Scotch is good. I love a good Scotch too. But
I'm just exploring now, so yeah, I'm not bourbon, trying some as I go.
Man, we'll have to talk again off stage about just so many things. Like I can point in so many directions on all of that.
Totally, man. Totally. I great choices. Those are the questions that I have for you here today, man. This is kind of some of the rapid. See, this is why my girlfriend calls me out all the time. She says, they're not rapid, right? Because I like to let my guests elaborate a little, right? So but we keep it going here. We're under the 1.5 hour mark, so it's not too bad.
We started your 5 rapid questions at 51 minutes.
But yeah, so we're good. What's going on, Sheena in the house? Good to see you. There was someone else. DS was in the house earlier. I want to say hello to DS. Good to see you, my friend. He and I share a birthday, so he's one of the best. But unleaded kind of guy, yeah. I'm unleaded kind of guy, yeah. So if you guys are not following Greg, make sure information's in the description below. Greg, my friend, before we close this out, I want to give you a little platform. Let the people know where they can find you and just some things that you have coming up.
Man, come find me on my channel if you're new. And thanks for taking some time to talk with me, Justin, as always. But Bearded Comic Bro on YouTube. I drop content every Monday, Wednesday, Friday nights. Monday nights, I'm doing my creator interviews. I've got a lot of really cool creator interviews coming up. Just trying to think who they even. Oh, in a couple weeks, there's going to be the artist from Nottingham is going to be on. We did an interview with him, and he's actually a lead singer of a rock band in Canada. Like, so this is a buck wild interview. It's really fun. Every Monday night I have creator interviews drop at 6:00. Wednesday nights are always just like random things, like whatever I feel like putting out, like Batman content. I do a cooking show with my wife that's comic book related. I'll drop, just random, Justin and I are actually getting ready to work on content in July for a video and things like just always trying to find different things. And then every Friday night on my channel, it's Name That Character. It's where we just dropped episode 40. My wife and I, we quiz each other. We rotate through making each other guess. Like, she doesn't know anything about comic books, so I try and make her guess characters, or she'll try and make me guess like who's the first appearance and naming stuff, or pixelating pictures, or drawing stuff. Like, it just is a lot of fun. So if you like comics and you want to just be entertained, Mondays to get how the books are being made, what the creators are doing, and then Wednesday and Friday are just really me having fun with my channel. You're not going to get a lot of spec because I don't know anything about spec. I'm horrible at it. You're not going to. I used to do unboxings. I don't, but it literally is just most of it's videos of me and my wife acting like fools, having fun, me talking about comic books and things like that. So I did get robbed. Oh yeah. Oh man, that's awesome. Yes.
What did Jamal said you got robbed with the Wonder Woman pick, bro? Yeah. Oh, so I was gonna say I did catch some of it just recently, and I love the idea of it, and just what you guys are doing with the pixelated, pictures and stuff, and the cooking. I remember when you first kind of launched that, so it's been a lot of fun seeing you guys do that as well. So.
It was so funny because I was like, we're really doing this. Well, I mentioned it on Lamer Frame, and I was like, there's an art. I was like, I read a book where they mentioned Green Arrow's chili. I was like, I should find the recipe and cook it. And everyone was like, oh, that'd be dope. Like, you should do it. I'm like, my wife's like, we're going to do it, aren't we? I was like, yes. Cause I'm like, someone's going to steal my idea.
So good, man. I'm glad you did. I'm glad you did. You got some love in the chat here, brother Joe, saying great show.
Thank you.
Anthony said that he just followed you up on IG and
Awesome. Thank
YouTube.
you.
Oh yes, DS reminds me too that Kanye. I actually him and I share a birthday with Kanye West also.
Oh, I saw Kanye in Philly at the Made in America Festival. Yeah,
that's cool, man. That is cool. Good stuff. Good stuff. Oh, and Alan here saying, "Oh man, the same with bourbon in the winter, Scotch in the summer." Yeah, I think because I like to have a little ice with my Scotch, but bourbon I like to drink neat, so I think that's why it's more of a winter drink for me overall. I mean, I'll drink it anytime, but you know. But man, this and also brother Joe mentioned cooking steak, potato, and corn on the cob for sisters tonight. Oh, he's having that tonight, man. See, this is what I don't know why I do this, but I torture myself by asking questions about food at the very end when I haven't eaten in a couple hours. Now I'm like starving, especially hearing you talk about seafood. I'm like, oh, maybe I get some sushi after this.
Ooh, sushi.
Yeah, man.
Let's go.
Big sushi fan.
You find people that like sushi, then you go and you're like, you get like 4 different rolls that you can share. Like that's the best is when you get a sushi.
Yeah, they bring it out.
Everyone needs a sushi friend in their life.
Yeah, agreed. Totally. That's a good way to put it, man. Sushi friend for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally with you. I think I never fail to at least mention the word sushi on here on the show at least once with a guest. So
I mean, I'm
glad
up. You did because again.
Yeah, making me hungry, Anthony says. Sorry about that, everybody. And if you're watching the replay, but so again, these are the questions that I had. So Greg, dude, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show. It won't be the last time that we collaborate, that's for sure. Nope. And keep this stuff going, for sure. So thanks for everything that you do in the community and bringing people together. Keep that great content going because it is very entertaining stuff. And just keep being you, man. I really
thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks so much for having me on.
Absolutely, man. Anytime. So again, everybody in the chat, thanks so much for hanging out with us. We still got 16 people here hanging. Make sure you hit that thumbs up. Make sure you're subscribed to Bearded Comic Bro. Put all the information in the description below. And again, if you're watching this replay, always appreciate you taking the time to watch the replay. One thing I want to remind everybody, I'm going to be back this Monday. Comic Collector Origins is going to have a Comic Creator Origins, my first Creator Origins, which I know, Greg, you just mentioned. I know you do a lot of these where you get the opportunity to speak with different artists and writers, which I think is amazing. And so I finally have kind of coordinated something with Olivia C. Briggs from the writer who wrote Silver City that just came out recently.
Nice. Yeah, nice.
From Aftershock. So really excited. That's going to be Monday at 6 o'clock. So it's a bit of a different change up. But if anybody's free to catch it, or of course you can catch the replay, but I will be live on my channel here at 6 o'clock on Monday.
Dude,
so
that's awesome.
Really excited for that. Yeah, man. Definitely be kind of a first. Other than my dad, I interviewed my dad, but that doesn't really count because that was more of a family thing. But he is a creator technically, so
right.
But anyway, so that's kind of what we have coming up. Other than that, I'll be back again next Saturday as well. I'll have Sparks Comics, Jeremy, on as my guest for Comic Collector Origins. So we're gonna keep this thing going. More people in the works. So looking forward to it. Everybody, you guys have a great Saturday and a great weekend. Stay cool, and I'll talk to you later.
See ya.